Hello, this is my response or synopsis of what our final reflection is in regards to this course, which is culture and communication. When it comes to essential needs in regards to being a skilled intercultural communicator, either domestically or abroad, the most essential skill is strong communication skills, according to this article from Indeed.com, which was written by the Indeed editorial team, and it was written or updated in this case, according to the article, on June 24th, 2022, and it is entitled Intercultural Skills, Definition and Examples. It says from these quotes under the sub article and within the article, strong communication skills. It says that communication is the ability to convey information clearly and simply and to understand what others say to you. Strong communication skills are essential in any workplace, and even more in a workplace where there might be cultural differences. I think when it comes to this quote, to summarize it, it's simply saying that when it comes to communicating with others, you want to be concise and you want to be, in a sense, you want to be heard, and of course context is key, and so that way there isn't any conflict. And when it comes to the three essential skills or qualities a skill and cultural communicator has to possess, the three main ones are empathy, active listening, and conflict resolution. I think a lot of people get empathy confused with sympathy, because empathy is essentially understanding on a mutual level, and in this case, understanding cultures and traditions and things like that, and customs, of course. Active listening is where you're being attentive and you're not being dismissive of what another individual is telling you. So that's a form of active listening, of course. And conflict resolution is basically it's essentially where you try to de-escalate, like an argument, for example, or a disagreement. You try to de-escalate it and try to find a common ground with one another. That is the article that I use in regards to these first two questions. The next question says, share 3 obstacles in achieving intercultural competence. Alrighty. The first article I want to share is from universalclass.com, and it is entitled Obstacles and Opportunities in Intercultural Communication. One negative aspect or obstacle in regards to this question that is being asked for the reflection is that selective attention is also like a not very good, and it means that, according to this article, it means that the environment is unfamiliar and that we tend to pay closer attention to salient cues that match our own, cues distinctive from the group, and cues that serve our expectation and goals for the interaction, which, according to this article, is not a good thing. There's also mentioning a prejudice, which is essentially, according to this article, it means the feelings of and attitudes towards out-group members, whether it's positive or negative. And when it comes to interculturally, according to this article, prejudice is basically antagonistic hostility towards a group or towards an individual due to his or her group membership, which is essentially, to summarize this aspect of prejudice, essentially a form of bigotry as well as ignorance. And prejudice is not a good thing, regardless of who you are, where you come from. It doesn't matter. Like, bigotry comes in all forms, and supremacy comes in many forms. And not just one group of people are hateful. I believe, for me personally, prejudice is taught. At least how I was raised, prejudice is taught, not inherited. It's a learned behavior. It is not something that an individual is born with. That individual is taught to be ignorant. And that's essentially what prejudice is. That's another factor. And the second article that I want to focus on in regards to this topic is entitled, it's from nakada.ksu.edu, and it's an article by Kathy McIver, who is the Global Engagement Commission Chair, and it was published on November 11th, 2013, and it is entitled Identifying Barriers to Effective Intercultural Communication. One quote that I want to focus on is, more specifically, actually 2 or 3 quotes, I believe, in regards to this article. It says, levels of ethnocentrism are closely connected to intercultural communication apprehension. And according to this article, as defined by Newlep and McCroskey, intercultural communication apprehension is the fear of or anxiety associated with either real or anticipated communication with people from different groups, especially cultural and or ethnic groups, which is not exactly good. And what I've got from this is that essentially it's similar to prejudice in a way. And I feel as if ethnocentrism, at least from what I've read in the previous article, it's a form of supremacy. And as I've stated before, supremacy comes in many forms, and it can affect anybody, regardless of who that individual is. And it needs to just, I know that we don't live in a utopia, but personally, I think that being hateful of anybody, regardless of, especially when it comes to race, creed, religion, sexual orientation, political beliefs, or any other factor that's pretty much needless when it comes to the individual, because when it comes to individuals, you should judge people by the content of his or her character, not based on irrelevant factors such as the ones I previously mentioned, because everybody is their own individual, and I personally believe that being your own individual and having a sense of self-awareness, as well as understanding that ignorance comes in all forms, is the reality of it. And as I stated before, bigotry comes in many forms, and supremacy comes in many forms. And that is my analysis of these 2 articles. The other question says, how does this course relate to the importance of cultural communication? I think when it comes to this course, I feel like the factors such as in Chapter 5, when it comes to nonverbal communication, I think in Chapter 7, it mentioned, I'm trying to think. It mentioned, I believe, relationship and conflict as well. And both of those sections of the textbook give examples of the goods and bads of either factors. So, such as miscommunication, as well as body language and gestures in regards to nonverbal communication. So that's how it relates to the importance of intercultural communication. The next question is, how can you apply the knowledge you gain from this course to become a competent intercultural communicator? I say for me, this course has definitely helped me have a better understanding of how communication works, especially social cues, because as someone who is autistic like myself, I have a very difficult time with social cues, and at times I don't understand people, and it's very difficult at times, but I try to work through it, because I can't let that rule my life, and I try to take it one step at a time in regards to learning how to identify said social cues. And the final question is, which module video helped you the most with becoming a competent intercultural communicator. I would say the video that helped me the most was in Module 5, which was the one that I wrote, that I entitled, called The Analysis of Nonverbal Communication. And when I made the video, it was simply about how nonverbal communication can vary from culture to culture and can be interpreted subjectively as well as objectively depending on the individual and that individual's culture as well as understanding of said gesture or body language. And when it comes to the source I used for the previous two questions that I mentioned, I used the textbook, which is entitled Intercultural Communications in Context. It is by Judith N. Martin and Thomas K. Nakayama, and I meant in chapter 5 is what I specifically use, which is from pages 260 to 299, and is the 8th edition of the said book, and it was published by McGraw-Hill. So this is what I have learned from this course. And thank you for listening, and have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you.